I've appreciated is the empathy and understanding how, even as parents, we're trying to navigate the different scenarios that are occurring in classrooms, but how key the communication is from teachers, so that even if we have a student who one week is on board and another one week a little bit more reluctant, hypothetically speaking, of course, but we know the baseline on how we can support, so that continuous communication with students and parents is key. You guys kind of touched upon it in your overview of what you're doing for that grading. And I think it was Corey that said a few minutes ago that it's really a challenge not to be able to give that instantaneous feedback, because you're used to being there in the classroom to monitor and to adjust and to give feedback. And you yourself know what you're going to move forward with, because you're able to see in real time that formative result of the work you're giving. Annette made a great point that you really hit that balance between challenging them and wanting to maintain that level of rigor and engagement, but also not overwhelming them in a way where they feel like I'm out. So how do you challenge them in a way where they keep coming back? So just if you could speak a little more about what challenges you've found in providing that specific and immediate feedback as you're encouraging students to work to improve their grades.
You know, for elementary, the feedback gets filtered through the parents. So I might write a comment in, you know, my Google Classroom, but the kids don't necessarily read it. The parent will see it. And again, you know, I made a comment about somebody's writing and, you know, positive, you know, you did this well, this well, this well, next time maybe do this differently. So of course, then the parent has them redo the entire thing, which was not my intention. So just really trying to be hyper aware of how you say things, you know, really trying to encourage the parents, because really, you know, I feel like we've passed the baton. Even though I'm coordinating, you know, they're the ones that are sitting right there next to them. So really trying to focus maybe on one piece of feedback, not telling them every single thing, but, you know, this is one little thing, and I don't want you to redo the whole assignment, but, you know, the next time we do this, this is something that you can do to make it better. So just really being thoughtful and conscious and careful about the way we say things, because, you know, again, it's just like when texts go around or emails and you don't get that expression and that tone of voice and, you know, that feeling tone. And, you know, I'm lucky I have parents that are very conscientious and they want their kids to succeed. But at the same time, sometimes I feel like I have to rein them in a little bit. They're 6 and 7, and we need to, you know, kind of, you know, use kid gloves a little bit.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that, Michelle. I think that that has been quite difficult. You know, you want to give feedback, but like I said earlier, you don't want the kids to feel like they're being picked on. And so I wanted to be very clear with my students that, you know, because I can't stand next to you and tell you, like, I'm going to have to type it back, and don't take offense to that. Just go in and fix whatever the issue was. I also think it's really difficult at an elementary level, knowing, you know, who has mom and dad sitting right next to them while they're working. And I think that's what makes the grade bump more difficult for elementary. You know, I know, for example, I'm sitting with my first grader while she's working, like she wouldn't have spelled all those words correctly. There's no way, because mom's sitting next to her, her sentence looks perfect. But, you know, I have students that I can tell mom and dad are sitting with them while they're working. And I have others who I know are taking care of siblings and nieces and nephews. So I think it's just important for us to remember that all our kids are in very, very different situations right now. And whatever we do decide to do as far as grade bumps go, I think that we need to make sure that we're really fair to those kids that may not have the help that others have.
Yeah, I know for like at our level, giving the kids some feedback with math, it's really difficult because you want to see what their work is and what their response is. I think today I had a situation that kind of hit on that. We had our Google Meet going on. The chat room is always open for responses. And we had this website where we presented a problem that involved circumference. And so it was crickets. And I'm like, okay, all right, so we need to backtrack here a little bit. You guys are giving me feedback with the silence. So I backtracked a little bit. Okay, how about somebody in the chat room give me the equation that we need for circumference? And, you know, I waited a little bit, and finally some stuff started rolling through, and a student wrote down the formula for area of a circle. And I'm thinking, okay, that begins with an A, not a C. We're talking about circumference. And I thought, how am I going to handle this? And so I agree with what Michelle and Corey are saying, how we react to this. So I gave a compliment to this fantastic formula for area, but we're talking about circumference, and just kind of led into that so that we don't lose the kids when they know that they've probably made a faux pas. And it was very good because some of the kids came back supportive, and they would say, oh, well, I disagree with so-and-so. I think it should be. And you're just like, thank goodness. So I think that feedback is going to really play upon how we react and respond. And I'll be honest, it's day to day with the feedback. One day this works, one day that works. One day I asked the right question in a Google form questionnaire, and then the other time it was just a conversation with the kids. So I think we're faced with those challenges, but I do miss that immediate moment where you can just look in the kid's eyes and say, you got it, or you don't got it. And that is something that's difficult for us to do in this time.
Yeah, for sure. I know I really do appreciate that I can send those specific comments back to students in Google Classroom. So I can, with that assignment, I can type in a comment, I can provide some feedback, I can return the assignment so that it can be edited based on those comments and resubmitted. Another big challenge has just been making sure that I communicate with parents, because their children are telling them that they're doing their work. They're showing them that there's no assignments left in Google Classroom. Because just because you press submit does not mean, or turn in, that it was actually done. So I've been trying to make sure that every 2 days I'm just kind of going through of who's been a little bit of a ghost in my classroom, and reaching out to those parents and their students, and just kind of being positive about it. I've just noticed your student hasn't logged in lately. Is there anything that I can do to help get them back on track? Let me know if there's anything that I need to be aware of. Because again, this is a difficult situation. We have a lot of parents who have probably been furloughed or have lost jobs. And like it's been mentioned, kids are watching their cousins and their younger siblings. And we don't know how much time is being put into education if their parents are working from home, as we are trying to find that balance and do as well. So keeping that communication with students and with parents is something that I'm really trying to push forward with as much as possible.
Yeah, if I could add something to what Annette said, hang on, if you don't mind me interrupting, Nathan, real quick, is the tool snippet is something I've found was very, very useful. And I know as people are hearing this, I hope they become aware of snippet, which just allows you to take a quick picture of information. And in Google Classroom, you can have all the grades laid out there. And I've had a scenario with a parent that had no idea the child was not involved. And I took a snippet of the work, and they were extremely supportive. And, the next day the kid had everything taken care of. So I feel that's one of the things about technology that I've found useful in feedback.
Yep. Great tool. I've used it many times.
Yeah, that's an awesome suggestion. With feedback for me, I think I already spoke to the fact that it's been really hard to try to be grading as much as I usually would be grading and things like that. But one thing that I am kind of leaning into more is, since I can't see their faces, like we've been saying, we don't get that nonverbal feedback, and that sometimes is the best feedback for us to give them further feedback to really make those changes. But since a lot of them are having, I'm not saying like a whole lot of time, because I know we have multiple subjects within different classes, but since it seems like they have a little bit more time to reflect, I'm kind of wanting them to do more reflection, meaning before I even initially give you that same kind of feedback I'd usually give you on like an essay or whatever, although I will say I'm not really assigning a ton of essays. I'm trying to be more lenient on them and look at the little skill pieces there. But before I even give you that feedback, reflect on yourself and see, what do you think in the work that you're about to submit to me did you do? Now, I know this takes maturity of a student, and my seniors are mature. My sophomores are already on their way to being juniors, so they're getting to be mature, or they're facing that very soon here. And I've seen a lot of good responses there, because they're investing themselves in the feedback, and then that makes it that much more meaningful when I can come in, see what their reflection is, and agree and disagree with their assessment, and sometimes you notice that they're harder on themselves. So I'm trying to look at this as another way of reinforcing that positivity, of not losing sight of, hey, here are your strengths, but here are also your weaknesses. And then I also know that they're invested in it because they've shown me that. I'm not just typing out comments and they may or may not be reading them. That's that part going back to the worry again. I don't know if I'm spending all this time and they're even engaging in it. They could be fast forwarding through all my videos for all I know for some of the things I post. But so I think that ensures to me that they are at least going through that harder process of reflection, and then I can give hopefully better and more efficient feedback because I know what they've already reflected on and noticing their strengths and weaknesses.
And I think that we've heard a lot of powerful examples right now of how you are navigating the challenges.
Every one of you has been so well spoken. We can't thank you enough for joining us today and for sharing your strengths and your struggles in this distance learning process. Your passion and your professionalism has come through loud and clear. We hope that this is beneficial to our teachers. We really wanted them to see and hear in this distance learning setting a way to connect with other educators like yourself, to know that the struggle's real and that we're all going through it on a daily basis, and that we're each making choices that are right for kids. And that's why your heart has just been exceptional. So thank you again for joining us. And Joe's going to share our next tip.
Yeah, before I do, what a wonderful representation of our learning community in this valley, and the teachers and the staff and the way you guys come together to take care of kids. I leave this inspired, and I leave this thankful for the people that I get to work among and support. And Nathan, you had said something earlier about having a classroom of hope and second chances. And I mean, that I will walk away from this discussion with that on my heart. And I think one of the things I know that I take with me from this, and I hope others do as well, is how important grace is right now. And you guys said it so many times that, yes, our topic today was about grading practices and how we're communicating learning progress and feedback. And you guys did a fantastic job sharing how we can do that in effective ways with humanity and with grace and with an understanding of the times we're in right now. And I just want to thank you for being such wonderful representatives of our teachers in our district and for taking care of our kids. It's so deeply appreciated. And then for those of you that are out there in internet land, I want you to know that we're going to be doing this every week. And so next week in our Vision 2020 podcast, we're going to tackle something that this group started talking about toward the end of our discussion. What engagement strategies have we found to be truly effective in a distance learning environment when we don't have grades as a leverage point necessarily for students? What strategies bring them back? What strategies get them excited about the learning and what we can offer them? So stay tuned, because next week that will be the discussion.